I'm a gamer.
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 What's up, guys? This is Audrey bringing you episode 5 of the Hitchhiker's Guide to Gaming. This week's topic is immersion, so here you are.
Most immersive gaming experience? This. Oh, Jesus!
Guys,
Game over, man! Game over! Jesus! More generally speaking, a great story tends to draw me into a game more than anything else will. I remember when I played Portal, I played through the whole thing in more or less one sitting. I maybe stopped to have food and then started doing something else. I just couldn't get Portal out of my head, so I had to go back and finish it off. And something else you've got to consider is graphics, and whilst I'm normally a fan of kind of letting the gameplay decide how good a game is, and I still go back and play the original Worms, and I've made text adventures myself, and they're fun games, but graphics can't be underestimated as a way of immersing people into the game world. When I'm playing Skyrim, I will sometimes just walk around and admire the environment because it's so beautiful.
So an immersive gaming experience for me is something that has a good story and characters. Something like Heavy Rain with the origami killer, and how the story is told through each one of the characters' point of views, and how the decisions you make throughout the game affect what happens in it. So it affects the endings that you get in the game. It's also kind of like Mass Effect and the Paragon Renegade system, where you have the Paragon or Renegade actions that change the different things in the game. Another thing is it's like psychological games. Heavy Rain would fall under them as well. But Silent Hill, and how each one of the monsters are created by the main character's own mind, because of how Silent Hill works.
The most immersive game I've probably ever played is Portal 2. The fact that, Shell never talks and you never leave first-person perspective. Like, even when you're in cutscenes, you're still in first-person perspective. It makes it really easy to put yourself in the character's position and make it feel like you are the character, that you are experiencing Aperture Laboratories and defeating GLaDOS and defeating Millie. In games, I'm going to use like Halo as an example. You're still in first-person perspective when you're like doing the gameplay, but when it comes to a cutscene, you leave first-person perspective, and you get reminded that it's not you actually in the game, that it's this character's doing all of the things, not you. And when your character never talks, it's like GLaDOS is always giving you these snarky comments and everything, but you can respond to her yourself. I mean, obviously she can't hear you, but it's just those little things that make it feel like you are in the game. And that moment of immersion is what I live for in games.
I believe that atmosphere and relevance really play a huge role when it comes to immersion. One example of relevance would have been, for me personally, Final Fantasy VIII's Balam Garden, because that was a school. I was a student at the time. The main character was a loner, and I was a loner. So every time that scene came across when I was wandering around the corridors in Balam Garden, I kind of felt for it a bit more because I was kind of immersed into it. I kind of felt like, I could relate. Also, atmosphere helps out a lot for stuff like Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. For example, the nuclear strike scene. No need to say any spoilers, but the very last minute of that was highly immersive because of just the atmosphere. It was crazy, and it made you stop going bang, 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 bang mindlessly. It actually took you for a moment to think about what was going on, and it held everyone's attention as a gamer.
The best way to immerse me in a game is with a living, breathing universe that makes me think and feel. I would argue that the best series at doing this are Kingdom Hearts, Elder Scrolls, and The Legend of Zelda. I can't even begin to explain how much everything fits together so well in those games. The art style, the storytelling and voice acting, memorable and fitting music is a big one for me. Everything is just perfect. Cohesion between all aspects of the game can make it not only a perfect experience of interactive media, but also as a visual and audio experience.
For me, the key to immersive games is choice and customization in the characters that we play. I'll use Call of Duty and Battlefield for example. If I were to be able to choose the loadout that I want, say I know I'm good with the submachine gun, and I play best when I'm using those weapons. If I were to be able to choose a loadout that had those to start each level with, maybe with like a prereq, because my secondary weapon must be a sniper rifle or something like that, then I'd probably be more immersed in those games. I'd be more drawn to them, play them more, certainly enjoy them more as well. Whereas if you look at a game like Dark Souls, for example, customize the character however you want, with the ability to customize any of the weapons that you have to go down different upgrade paths. Customize your character to focus on magic or melee based, or you can go for bows and arrows as well. There's also multiple routes you can take through the game. That's another thing that helps in immersion with me. You can choose which route you go first. Choose the order in which you take part in your adventure. Also optional extras in the game, like hidden bosses, side quests, hidden item, a wide variety of extra things that are in the game that are off the beaten path. Fantastic. Helps me get more immersed in the game. Another example would be Uncharted and Tomb Raider. Uncharted, you can play however you want, but you pretty much know you're going to get raided by a bunch of people here and there. Tomb Raider, you have control. You have a lot more control over what weapons you use. So you can choose a bow and arrow and be stealthy, and the game would recognise that. Whereas Uncharted, things seem to get a bit samey. The voice acting in the gameplay itself might be good. I prefer the gameplay from Tomb Raider. I prefer how the game plays for me. Certainly something that is important to me as well in immersion is how the game feels.
I need a lot of things to come together for me to really get immersed in a game. I need the world to be believable. That doesn't mean it has to look realistic, but it has to behave realistically. I need physics to make sense. I need characters to react to me in a way that makes sense. I need a deep and involved story, not one that's convoluted, but something that's involved enough that it looks like I make a difference in their little virtual lives. I prefer to have silent main characters. For me, as soon as a character has a voice, they are an individual, they are their own person, and they are them, and I am me. And if they don't have a voice, like you can tell they're having a dialogue with somebody, but they don't actually have a voice, then I'm better able to identify with them in a way that makes me feel like I'm maybe controlling an avatar of myself and not directing another individual to do certain actions. The thing I hear most often from other people about immersive gaming experiences is they want to forget they're playing a video game. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, I know personally, I'm never going to forget that I'm looking at a TV screen. I'm looking at a 3D image on a 2D surface. That's not a realistic benchmark for immersion. For me, for a gaming experience to be immersive, I don't need to forget I'm playing a video game. I just need to forget that the world exists outside of that room.
Immersion is a target for most people who are developing a game or creating a story. At the end of the day, it's a target for novelists, musicians, game developers, you name it. Anyone who's trying to craft a world or craft a story needs to achieve immersion of the third party, of the audience. It can, of course, enhance the experience of the audience. In that case, a lot of writers and a lot of developers will go to extreme lengths in order to achieve immersion, because at the end of the day, when the character or the player is fully immersed in the character and in the character story, be it a character they've crafted themselves or a character that they have been thrown into their world, then that essentially blocks out all interference from reality, which, of course, although enhancing the gameplay experience, at the same time it's very, very dangerous, because if that's it's what gives rise to ultimately the news stories you see of people dying at their keyboards, or people who do become addicted, because eventually the story of the character and immersion within the game becomes at such a state that their life in the game is better than their life in reality. That's what makes it very dangerous. It is a very powerful tool, and it's essentially what every single writer seeks to do. It seeks to create a universe or create a character that the reader can fully immerse themselves in and go for an experience that they can't have in the real world. But when the audience or the person playing the game achieves immersion to such a level that they start comparing their real life to the life in the game, and finding that the game is better, and therefore it triggers a response where they think, I don't want to live this life anymore, I want to stay in the game because the game is better, the game is who I want to be. I can't realise these goals outside of this digital world or this literary world. So it's a double-edged.
Probably one of the most immersive experiences I've ever had has been the Left 4 Dead series. And it's not because I feel like I am the character. I know a lot of people talk about silent protagonists and being in first person and things like that, but what really gets me about Left 4 Dead is I feel like I'm in the universe. So whenever I'm playing with my friends, like, you know, if we hear a spitter or a boomer or whatever, we'll shout out the name of the special infected. Or I know a lot of the times, especially if there's a big group of us, and one of us hears a witch, we'll start whispering as though the witch can actually hear us. And I think that's really a mark of an immersive gaming experience, if you feel like you're in the universe, even when you're with other people. So that's pretty cool. Please check out the link below to join our group on roosterteeth.com, or to check out the profiles of everyone who's contributed to this episode. Thanks for watching, guys!
The most immersive gaming experience for me is a good story. No.
Bud. That didn't happen.